I want you to close your eyes for just a moment and think about yesterday. Think about that conversation that didn't go the way you wanted. Think about that mistake you made. Think about that person who hurt you. Now open your eyes and ask yourself this question. How much of today have you already lost thinking about something that no longer exists? Because that's the truth nobody wants to hear. Yesterday is gone. It's dead. It's over. And yet most of us are dragging its corpse into every single new day we're given. Let me tell you something that changed my entire life. I was sitting in my car one morning, probably about 20 years ago now, and I was replaying an argument I'd had with someone the day before. I was rehearsing what I should have said. I was going over every word they said to me. I was getting angry all over again. And then I looked up and realized I'd been sitting in my driveway for 15 minutes. 15 minutes of a brand new morning, gone. Wasted on something that had already happened. And in that moment, I realized I was doing something absolutely insane. I was choosing to suffer twice. Once, when it happened, and again, every single time I replayed it in my mind. Here's what most people don't understand about the past. It has no power except the power you give it. None. The past cannot hurt you. It cannot make you angry. It cannot make you sad. The only thing that can hurt you is your decision to keep thinking about it. Your decision to keep giving it energy. Your decision to keep bringing it into this present moment where it doesn't belong. You see, when you wake up in the morning, you have a choice. You can either step into today with all the wonder and possibility it holds, or you can drag yesterday behind you like a chain around your ankle. And I'm telling you right now, that chain is not real. You put it there, and you can take it off. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever noticed that when something bad happens, when someone says something hurtful, or when you make a mistake, you think about it over and over and over again? But when something wonderful happens, when someone gives you a compliment or when something goes right, you barely give it a second thought. Isn't that fascinating? We have this incredible ability to replay the negative moments in our lives like they're on an endless loop. But the beautiful moments, the joyful moments, those we let slip away. Why do we do that? Why do we choose to be curators of our pain instead of collectors of our joy? I'll tell you why. Because somewhere along the way, we were taught that suffering means we care. We were taught that holding on to pain makes us deep, makes us serious, makes us human. We were taught that letting go means we don't care, that we're shallow, that we're avoiding reality. But that's a lie. That's one of the biggest lies we've ever been told. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself, about your peace, about your life, to refuse to let the past steal your present. There was a woman I once knew who spent 20 years of her life angry at her father. 20 years. He had hurt her when she was young, and she held on to that hurt like it was a precious treasure. Every family gathering, every holiday, every moment of potential joy, she would bring that anger with her. She would sit there, physically present, but mentally, she was back in her childhood, reliving those painful moments. And then one day, her father died. And you know what she said to me? She said, I wasted so much time being angry at him, and now he's gone, and I can't get any of those years back. Do you see what happened there? She thought she was punishing him by holding on to her anger, but the only person she was punishing was herself. He went on living his life, and she imprisoned herself in a past that no longer existed. Here's a truth that might be hard to hear. The people who hurt you yesterday aren't sitting around today thinking about you. They're not losing sleep. They're not replaying the conversation. They've moved on. They're living their lives. So why are you still there? Why are you still giving them free rent in your mind? Why are you still letting them control your emotions, your peace, your present moment? Because every time you think about what they said or what they did, you're giving them power over you right now, not yesterday, right now. And let me be very clear about something. I'm not telling you to pretend bad things didn't happen. I'm not asking you to put on a fake smile and act like everything is wonderful when it's not. That's not what letting go means. Letting go means you acknowledge what happened, you feel what you need to feel, you learn what you need to learn, and then you make a conscious decision not to carry it with you anymore. You set it down. You walk away from it. Because carrying it is destroying you, and whatever you're carrying isn't worth your destruction. Think about your mind like a garden. Every thought you think is a seed. Every time you replay yesterday's hurt, yesterday's anger, yesterday's pain, you're planting more seeds of suffering. You're watering them. You're giving them sunlight. And they grow. They take over your garden until there's no room left for anything beautiful to grow. But here's the miraculous part. You can change what you plant right now, this very moment. You can stop planting seeds of yesterday and start planting seeds of today. Seeds of peace, seeds of joy, seeds of possibility. Have you ever watched a river? The water flows, it moves forward, it doesn't stop and hold on to the places it's been, it doesn't carry the rocks from upstream, it flows. And when you put your hand in the river and then take it out, the water closes right back up like your hand was never there. That's how life wants to work. That's how our minds are meant to work. But instead of flowing like water, most of us are frozen like ice, stuck in moments that have already melted away. I want to tell you about a practice that changed everything for me. Every morning when I wake up, before I check my phone, before I think about my to-do list, before I do anything else, I say this to myself: I am not who I was yesterday. I am not my past mistakes. I am not my past pain. I am new. I am here. I am now. And I mean it. I feel it because it's true. The person you were yesterday is gone. That version of you doesn't exist anymore. You've grown. You've changed. Every cell in your body has changed. You are literally not the same person. So why are you still identifying with that old version of yourself? Here's what happens when you let go of yesterday. You create space. Space for something new to enter your life. Space for healing. Space for joy. Space for miracles. Because here's the thing about holding on. When your hands are full of the past, you can't grab onto the future. You can't receive the blessings that are trying to reach you. You can't catch the opportunities that are being thrown your way. Your hands are too full of what's already dead and gone. And I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking, but Wayne, you don't understand what happened to me. You don't know how badly I was hurt. You don't know how deep my pain goes. And you're right. I don't know your specific pain, but I know this. No matter what happened to you, continuing to think about it every single day is not healing you. It's not helping you. It's not making anything better. It's making everything worse because you're not living in reality anymore. You're living in a memory. And that memory is robbing you of the only time you actually have, which is right now. Let me ask you a question. What if today is going to be the best day of your life? What if today something amazing is going to happen to you? What if today you're going to meet someone who changes everything? What if today holds a miracle with your name on it? Would you even notice? Would you even be available for it? Or would you be too busy thinking about yesterday to see the gift that's right in front of you? I've learned something profound in my years on this earth. The quality of your life is not determined by what happens to you. It's determined by what you choose to think about. Two people can go through the exact same experience. One will think about it every day and let it destroy them. The other will acknowledge it, learn from it, and move forward. Same experience, completely different lives. The only difference is where they put their attention. Your attention is the most valuable thing you have. It's more valuable than your money. It's more valuable than your time. Because where your attention goes, your life goes. If your attention is on yesterday's problems, your life is stuck in yesterday. If your attention is on today's possibilities, your life is moving forward. It's that simple. And it's that hard. Because redirecting your attention takes practice. It takes discipline. It takes a fierce commitment to your own well-being. Here's something I want you to try right now. Think about something from yesterday that's been bothering you. Got it? Now I want you to imagine that thought as an object in your hand. Feel the weight of it. Notice how heavy it is, how uncomfortable it is to hold. Now I want you to imagine opening your hand and watching that thought float away. Just let it go. Watch it drift up and disappear. And notice how your hand feels now. Empty, light, free. That's the feeling of letting go. And you can do that anytime you want, with any thought, with any memory. You are not a victim of your thoughts. You are the master of them. I'm going to tell you something that might sound strange, but stay with me. Your past is not as solid as you think it is. Every time you remember something, you're not actually remembering the event itself. You're remembering the last time you remembered it. And each time you remember it, you change it a little bit. You add emotion to it. You add interpretation to it. You add meaning to it. So the thing you're thinking about from yesterday, from last month, from 10 years ago, it's not even real anymore. It's a story you've told yourself so many times that you believe it's the truth, but it's just a story. And stories can be changed. What if you could write a new story? What if instead of being the person who was hurt, you could be the person who overcame? Instead of being the person who failed, You could be the person who learned. Instead of being the victim, you could be the victor. You can, right now, today, this moment. Because the only thing keeping you in that old story is your decision to keep telling it. I've met thousands of people in my life, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty. The happiest people are not the people who had easy lives. They're not the people who never experienced pain or disappointment or heartbreak. The happiest people are the ones who learned how to let go. They're the ones who learned how to release the past and fully embrace the present. They're the ones who understand that every morning is a fresh start, a new beginning, a clean slate. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need anyone's permission to start fresh. You don't need to wait for an apology. You don't need closure. You don't need anything external to happen. You can decide right now, in this very moment, that you're done carrying yesterday into today. You can decide that you deserve peace more than you deserve to be right. You deserve joy more than you deserve to hold on to your pain. You deserve a beautiful life more than you deserve to keep punishing yourself for things that have already happened. Think about a child for a moment. Have you ever watched a small child get upset about something? They cry, they scream, they're completely devastated, and then 5 minutes later, they're laughing and playing like nothing ever happened. They don't hold grudges, they don't replay the moment over and over. They feel what they need to feel, and then they move on. They let go, naturally, easily. Because they haven't been taught yet to cling to suffering. Somewhere along the way to adulthood, we learn to hold on. We learn to replay. We learn to ruminate. But we can unlearn that. We can return to that natural state of flow, of release, of freedom. Here's what I know for sure. Every single morning, you're given a gift. The gift of a new day. A day that has never existed before and will never exist again. A day full of potential, full of possibility, full of opportunities to create joy, to share love, to experience wonder. And when you spend that day thinking about yesterday, you're returning that gift unopened. You're saying, no thank you. I'd rather hold on to my pain than experience this miracle you're offering me. And that breaks my heart because I know how precious these days are. I know how quickly they pass. I know that one day we won't have any more new mornings. And I don't want you to look back and realize you missed them all because you were too busy looking backward. So here's my challenge to you. Starting tomorrow morning when you wake up, before your feet hit the floor, I want you to make a declaration. Say it out loud. Yesterday is over. I release it. I let it go. Today is new, and I am new with it. Say it like you mean it. Feel it in your body. Let it wash over you like a wave of fresh water. And then throughout the day, every time you notice yourself thinking about yesterday, acknowledge it. Say to yourself, there's yesterday again, trying to steal my today. But I'm not giving it permission. I'm choosing right now. And then bring your attention back to this moment. What can you see right now? What can you hear? What can you feel? Come back to now. Because now is where life is happening. This isn't going to be easy. Your mind has been practicing thinking about the past for years, maybe decades. It's a well-worn path. Your brain wants to go there because it's familiar, but you can create a new path. Every time you redirect your attention from yesterday to today, you're making that new path a little bit stronger, a little bit clearer, a little bit easier to follow. And eventually, if you keep practicing, staying present will become more natural than dwelling on the past. I want to leave you with this final thought. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become in this moment. And in this moment, you have complete freedom, complete power, complete choice. You can choose to let go of everything that's weighing you down and step into this day with lightness, with hope, with openness to whatever beauty is waiting for you. And that choice is always available to you every single morning, every single moment. The question is not whether you can let go, the question is whether you will. So let it go. Release it, set it down, walk away from it. Choose today. Choose now, choose life, because this beautiful, precious, unrepeatable day is waiting for you, and it's not going to wait forever. Don't ruin it by thinking about yesterday. Don't waste it by replaying what's already over. Step into it fully, completely, with your whole heart. Be here now. This is where your life is. This is where your peace is. This is where your joy is. Right here, right now, today. Let me tell you something that's going to change everything you thought you knew about prayer. For years, maybe your entire life, you've been talking to God. You've been asking, pleading, bargaining, requesting. You've been filling the air with your words, your wishes, your wants. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but what if I told you that the real conversation, the one that will transform your life, begins the moment you stop talking and start listening? I remember sitting in my study one morning, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts, my heart heavy with concerns about my work, my family, the future. I closed my eyes and began to pray, as I had done countless times before. Words tumbled out, one after another. Like a waterfall, I couldn't stop. And then something happened. In the middle of my own monologue, I heard this quiet voice inside me say, "Wayne, when are you going to be quiet long enough to hear what I have to say?" It wasn't a booming voice from the heavens. It was gentle, almost like a whisper, but it stopped me cold. I realized in that moment that I had been doing all the talking in my relationship with the divine, and I had never, not once, stopped to listen for an answer. Think about your own life for a second. When you pray, when you talk to God, how much of that time is spent speaking, and how much is spent in silence, truly listening? If you're like most people, the answer is probably 99% speaking, 1% listening, if that. We treat God like a cosmic vending machine. We insert our prayers, push the button, and expect our desired outcome to drop down into our lives. But that's not how this works. That's not how any meaningful relationship works. Here's what I've come to understand after decades of studying spiritual principles and living them out in my own life. God is always speaking to us. The universe is always communicating with us. The divine intelligence that creates worlds and sustains every living thing is constantly sending us messages, guidance, wisdom, and love. But we can't hear it because we're too busy talking. We're too busy filling every moment with noise, with our own agenda, with our fears masquerading as prayers. Let me share something with you. A woman once came to me after one of my talks, tears streaming down her face. She said, "Dr. Dyer, I've been praying for 15 years for God to show me my purpose, and I've never gotten an answer. Why won't God talk to me?" I looked at her with all the compassion in my heart and asked her, "Have you been listening?" She looked confused. I said, "I want you to try something. For the next 30 days, spend just 10 minutes each morning in complete silence. Don't ask for anything, don't say anything, just sit quietly and listen, see what happens." 3 months later, I got a letter from her. She wrote, "I can't believe it. The answer was there all along. I just couldn't hear it over the sound of my own voice." Within the first week of truly listening, I began to receive these gentle nudges, these insights, these moments of clarity that showed me exactly what I was meant to do with my life. It wasn't a lightning bolt. It wasn't a burning bush. It was a soft, persistent knowing that grew stronger every time I made space for it. This is the truth that so many of us miss. We think prayer is about convincing God to give us what we want. We think it's about repeating our requests over and over until we get through. But prayer, real prayer, is about alignment. It's about tuning ourselves to the frequency of the divine. And you can't tune into a frequency if you're making too much noise yourself. Consider this for a moment. When you have a conversation with someone you love, someone you deeply respect, do you do all the talking? Do you just dump everything on them and then walk away without giving them a chance to respond? Of course not. That wouldn't be a conversation. That would be a monologue. Yet that's exactly what we do with God. We monologue and then wonder why we feel disconnected, why our prayers seem to go unanswered. The great mystics, the truly enlightened beings throughout history, they all understood this. They spent more time in silence than in speech. They understood that wisdom doesn't come from talking. It comes from listening. It comes from creating space for the divine to enter and speak to us in the language of intuition, inspiration, and inner knowing. I want you to understand something crucial here. When I talk about listening to God, I'm not talking about hearing voices or having supernatural experiences, though those can happen. I'm talking about that still, small voice within you. I'm talking about that inner guidance system that we all have, but most of us ignore because we're too busy, too distracted, too caught up in the noise of our own minds and the chaos of the world around us. Here's what happens when you start listening. You begin to notice things. You begin to see signs and synchronicities that were always there, but you were too preoccupied to recognize. You begin to feel drawn towards certain people, certain opportunities, certain paths. You begin to experience what I call inspired ideas, thoughts that seem to come from beyond your ordinary thinking, solutions to problems that you weren't actively trying to solve. This is God speaking to you. This is the universe guiding you. But you can only receive these messages when you're in a receptive state, when you're quiet, when you're listening. Let me tell you about my friend Michael. He was a successful businessman, made a lot of money, had all the external markers of success, but he was miserable. Every night, he would pray for fulfillment, for meaning, for happiness. And every morning, he would wake up and go right back to the same life that was making him unhappy. One day, he decided to try something different. Instead of telling God what he needed, he asked one simple question: what do you want me to know? And then he sat in silence. The first few days, nothing. His mind was too agitated, too full of to-do lists and worries, but he kept at it. And on about the fifth day, in the middle of that silence, he felt this overwhelming sense that he needed to slow down. Not a voice telling him, just a knowing. He ignored it at first, but it kept coming back stronger each time he sat in silence. Eventually, he listened. He started saying no to commitments. He started taking walks without his phone. He started spending real time with his kids instead of just being physically present while mentally absent. What happened next amazed him. New opportunities started appearing, but they were different from his usual business deals. They were opportunities to help people, to use his skills and service to others, to make a real difference. Within a year, his entire life had transformed. Not because he got what he had been asking for, but because he finally heard what God had been trying to tell him all along. You see, the problem with doing all the talking is that we already think we know what we need. We think we know what will make us happy, what will make us successful, what will solve our problems. So we tell God our plans and ask for divine assistance in achieving them. But what if our plans aren't aligned with our highest good? What if what we think we want isn't what we actually need? What if God has something better in mind, something we haven't even imagined, but we can't receive it because we're too busy pushing our own agenda? This is where surrender comes in. And I know that word makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Surrender sounds like giving up, like waving a white flag. But spiritual surrender isn't about giving up. It's about giving over. It's about saying, I don't have all the answers. I can't see the whole picture. I'm willing to be guided by something greater than my limited perspective. When you shift from talking to listening, you're practicing surrender. You're acknowledging that the intelligence that orchestrates the cosmos, that turns acorns into oak trees and embryos into human beings, might know better than you do about what you need and when you need it. You're opening yourself to divine guidance instead of trying to force divine compliance with your plans. I've seen this play out in my own life in the most beautiful ways. There was a time when I was desperate to have a particular book published. I prayed about it constantly. I told God exactly how I wanted it to happen, which publisher I wanted, what the timeline should be. Nothing happened. The doors stayed closed. I was frustrated, angry even. But then I remembered my own teaching. I stopped talking and started listening. In the silence, I began to sense that this wasn't the right time, that I had more to learn, more to experience before that particular message would be complete and ready to go out into the world. I let go. I surrendered. And you know what happened? 2 years later, after experiences I couldn't have predicted or planned for, that book came together in a way that was infinitely better than what I had originally envisioned. The right publisher appeared. The timing was perfect. The message had depth and authenticity it wouldn't have had if it had been published according to my original plan. God had been saying not yet, but I couldn't hear it over the sound of my own voice saying now. What are you missing right now because you're too busy talking? What guidance is trying to reach you that can't get through because there's no space for it? What answers are waiting for you in the silence that you've never accessed because you've never truly listened? I want to give you something practical here, something you can actually do. Starting today, I want you to establish what I call a daily listening practice. It doesn't have to be long. Even 5 minutes is enough if you're fully present. Find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths to settle your body and mind. And then, instead of launching into your usual prayers and requests, simply ask, what do I need to know right now? Or what would you have me do? Or just, I'm listening. Then be still. Don't try to force anything. Don't expect fireworks. Just be open and receptive. If thoughts come, and they will, acknowledge them and let them pass like clouds moving across the sky. If you get distracted, and you will, gently bring your attention back to that inner space of listening. You're creating a channel for divine communication. You're tuning your receiver to the frequency of wisdom and guidance. At first, you might not notice anything dramatic. That's okay. This is a practice, not a performance. You're building a muscle, developing a capacity for inner listening that most people have allowed to atrophy. But if you stay with it, if you make this a regular part of your daily routine, things will begin to shift. You'll start to notice that you have access to a deeper knowing, a clearer sense of what's right for you, a stronger connection to your intuition and inner guidance. You might be wondering, how do I know if it's really God speaking to me or just my own thoughts? That's a great question, and here's what I've learned. Divine guidance has certain qualities. It's peaceful, it's loving, it's consistent. It doesn't create anxiety or fear. It doesn't contradict your deepest values. It feels like truth, like something clicking into place. Your ego, on the other hand, is usually anxious, demanding, comparative, fear-based. Learn to distinguish between these two voices, and you'll always know which one to follow. There's another aspect to this that I think is crucial. When you're constantly talking to God, making requests, asking for things, you're operating from a mindset of lack. You're essentially saying, I don't have what I need, and I need you to give it to me. But when you shift to listening, you move into a mindset of receptivity and trust. You're acknowledging that everything you need is already being provided, and your job is simply to be open to receiving it and to follow the guidance you're given. This doesn't mean you never ask for anything. Of course, you can express your desires and concerns, but balance it with listening. Make it a dialogue, not a monologue. Speak your heart, then listen for the response. Ask your questions, then be still enough to hear the answers. Share your burdens, then allow yourself to be comforted and guided. I've come to believe that most of what we call unanswered prayers aren't unanswered at all. The answer is there, we just haven't been listening for it. Or we've been listening for the answer we want rather than being open to the answer we're being given. Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes it's not yet. Sometimes it's I have something better in mind, but there's always an answer if we're willing to listen for it. Think about the people in your life who you feel most connected to. What makes those relationships special? I bet one of the key factors is that they really listen to you. They don't just wait for their turn to talk. They genuinely hear you. They give you their full attention. They create space for you to be yourself and to share what's on your heart. That's what God wants from us too. Not our perfect prayers or our eloquent requests. Just our willingness to be present, to be real, to listen as much as we speak. Here's something that might challenge you. For the next week, try this experiment. Reduce your talking prayers by half and double your listening time. If you usually spend 10 minutes in prayer talking to God, spend 5 minutes speaking and 5 minutes in silence. See what happens. Notice what you become aware of. Pay attention to the insights that arise, the feelings that surface, the guidance that emerges. I promise you, this will change your spiritual life. It will deepen your connection to the divine in ways that years of talking prayers never could. Because relationship is built on communication, and communication is a two-way street. It requires both speaking and listening, both expressing and receiving. You are never alone. You are never without guidance. You are never disconnected from the source of all wisdom and love. But you have to create the space to experience this truth. You have to quiet the noise long enough to hear the still, small voice that is always, always speaking to you, guiding you, loving you. So I'm inviting you today to shift your practice. Stop doing all the talking. Start listening. Create silence in your life, not as empty space, but as sacred space where the divine can reach you, where your soul can speak to you, where truth can reveal itself to you. This is where transformation happens. This is where miracles unfold. This is where you discover that you've never been doing this life alone, that guidance has always been available, that all the answers you've been seeking have been waiting for you in the silence. The conversation you've been longing for with God is happening right now, but you'll never hear it if you don't stop talking long enough to listen. Today, this moment, you have the opportunity to change everything. Not by praying harder or saying the right words, but by being still, by being open, by being willing to receive what the universe has been trying to give you all along. Your life is about to get a whole lot more magical when you discover the power of listening. Trust me on this. I've lived it. I've seen it transform not just my own life, but the lives of countless people who've learned this simple but profound truth. God is speaking. The question is, are you listening? What if I told you that the moment you stop trying to fit in is the exact moment your life begins to transform? I know that sounds counterintuitive. We've been programmed since childhood to blend in, to color inside the lines, to be careful about standing out too much. But here's what I've discovered after decades of working with people from all walks of life. The ones who change the world, the ones who find true fulfillment, the ones who leave a lasting impact are never the ones who played it safe by copying others. They're the ones who had the courage to be authentically, unapologetically themselves. Let me tell you about a conversation I had years ago that changed everything for me. I was sitting with a young artist who was in tears because her work wasn't selling. She showed me her paintings, and they were technically perfect, beautiful, really, but something was missing. When I asked her who her influences were, she rattled off 5 famous artists whose styles she was trying to emulate. And there it was. The problem wasn't her skill. The problem was that she had buried her own voice so deep under layers of imitation that she couldn't even hear it anymore. I asked her a simple question. What would you paint if you knew no one would ever see it? What would you create if approval didn't matter? 3 months later, she sent me a photo of her first original piece. It was raw, it was different, it was unmistakably hers, and it sold within a week. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. When you spend your life copying others, you become a second-rate version of someone else instead of a first-rate version of yourself. Think about that for a moment. You have something inside you that has never existed before in the history of humanity. Your combination of experiences, perspectives, talents, and quirks is completely unique. But most people never tap into that originality because they're too busy looking around to see what everyone else is doing. The world doesn't need more copies. The world needs originals. And I'm not talking about being different for the sake of being different. I'm talking about the kind of authenticity that comes from deep within, from that place inside you that knows who you really are, when all the masks come off. You see, when you're truly original, when you're operating from your authentic self, something magical happens. You stop competing because there's no competition. How can anyone compete with you being you? They can't. They can only try to copy you. And by then, you've already moved on to the next expression of your authentic self. Have you ever noticed how the most influential people in history were never the ones who followed the crowd? Martin Luther King Jr. didn't look around and say, well, everyone else is accepting segregation, so I guess I should too. Steve Jobs didn't create Apple products by copying what IBM was doing. Maya Angelou didn't become one of the greatest poets of our time by writing like everyone else. They tapped into something deeper. They trusted their inner voice even when it contradicted everything the world was telling them. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you dare to be original, when you dare to express your authentic self, something happens that you might not expect. People start copying you, and that's okay. In fact, that's more than okay. That's confirmation that you're onto something real. Let them copy. Let them try to replicate what you're doing. Because here's the secret. They can copy your actions. They can copy your style. They can even copy your words. But they can never copy your essence. They can never copy the unique combination of spirit and experience and perspective that makes you, you. I remember when I first started teaching these principles, people would come up to me after seminars and say, Wayne, what if someone steals my ideas? And I would always respond the same way, let them try. Because an idea without the authentic energy behind it is just noise. When you're operating from your true self, from your source, your work carries a frequency that cannot be duplicated. People can sense authenticity. They can feel it. And no matter how well someone copies your surface actions, they can never replicate that. Think about this for a moment. What are you holding back right now because you're afraid it's too different? What idea have you shelved because you looked around and nobody else was doing it? What dream have you abandoned because it didn't fit into the conventional path? That's exactly the thing you need to pursue. That's exactly the voice you need to amplify. I've watched this pattern play out thousands of times. Someone discovers their authentic voice, their original expression, and they're terrified. They think, this is too weird. This is too different. People won't get it. But then they gather their courage and put it out into the world anyway. And what happens? Some people don't get it. That's true. Some people will never get it. But the right people, the people who need what you have to offer, they find you like metal to a magnet. Because authenticity is magnetic. Originality is magnetic. Here's what most people don't understand about being original. It's not about trying to be different. It's about stopping trying to be the same. There's a huge difference. When you try to be different, you're still operating from the outside in. You're still looking at what everyone else is doing and then deliberately doing the opposite. That's not freedom. That's just another form of letting others control you. True originality comes from the inside out. It comes from getting so connected to your authentic self that you stop worrying about what anyone else is doing altogether. Let me share something personal with you. Early in my career, I was invited to speak at a major conference alongside some of the biggest names in personal development. I prepared this elaborate presentation, complete with slides and statistics and quotes from famous philosophers. I was trying to sound important, trying to sound like what I thought a serious speaker should sound like. The night before the conference, I couldn't sleep. Something felt off. So I threw away my entire presentation and decided to just speak from my heart, to share the simple truths I discovered through my own struggles and breakthroughs. No pretense, no trying to impress anyone, just me, being me. That talk changed my career, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. When you're authentic, when you're original, you give others permission to be the same. That's the real power of staying true to yourself. You become a lighthouse for other people who are tired of pretending, who are exhausted from trying to fit in, who are ready to stop being a carbon copy and start being an original. Your courage to be yourself ignites courage in others. But I want to be honest with you about something. Staying original isn't always easy. There will be times when the pressure to conform feels overwhelming. There will be moments when you look at what everyone else is doing and think, maybe I should just do that too. It would be so much simpler. The voices of doubt will get loud. Your family might not understand. Your friends might think you've lost your mind. The market might not immediately reward you. And in those moments, you have to decide, are you going to trust the authentic voice within you, or are you going to let fear push you back into the crowd? I'll tell you what I've learned. Every single time I've trusted my authentic self, even when it scared me, even when it made no logical sense, something greater unfolded. Every single time I've tried to copy someone else or conform to expectations, I felt miserable, and the results have been mediocre at best. Your inner guidance system knows the way. Your authentic self knows what wants to emerge through you. The question is, are you listening? Here's something that might surprise you. Being original doesn't mean you have to reinvent the wheel. It doesn't mean you can't learn from others or be inspired by others. Of course you can. Of course you should. But there's a difference between learning from someone and losing yourself in trying to become them. When you study others, you're gathering tools and insights, but you use those tools to build your own unique creation, not to replicate theirs. Think of it like cooking. You can learn techniques from master chefs. You can understand flavor profiles and cooking methods. But when you create your own dish, you're not trying to make an exact copy of theirs. You're using what you've learned to express your own palette, your own creativity, your own vision. That's how you should approach everything in life. Learn from the masters, but create from your soul. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more authentic you become, the more universal your message becomes. When you dig deep into your specific truth, into your unique experience, you somehow tap into something that resonates with everyone. Because beneath all our surface differences, we all share the same core human experiences. We all know what it feels like to be afraid. We all know what it feels like to love. We all know what it feels like to struggle and to hope and to dream. When you speak from that deep, authentic place within you, you speak to that same place in others. I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine a world where everyone stopped trying to copy everyone else. Imagine a world where every person fully expressed their authentic gifts, their unique perspective, their original voice. Can you see how much richer that world would be? Can you see how many more problems would get solved? How much more beauty would get created? How much more innovation would emerge? That world starts with you. It starts with your decision, right now, to stop playing small and start being fully yourself. Let the critics talk. Let the copycats copy. Let the doubters doubt. None of that matters. What matters is that you stay true to the voice within you. What matters is that you honor the unique expression that wants to come through you. What matters is that when you get to the end of your life, you can say, I lived as myself. I didn't waste my precious time trying to be someone else. You know what the saddest thing in the world is? It's not failure. It's never trying. It's going to your grave with your original song still inside you. It's spending your entire life being a mediocre copy of someone else when you could have been a magnificent original. Don't let that be you. Don't let fear cheat the world out of your unique contribution. Here's my challenge to you, and I mean this from the deepest place in my heart. Starting right now, today, make one choice that honors your authentic self. Just one. Maybe it's finally starting that project you've been putting off because it's too unconventional. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting with an idea that's different from everyone else's. Maybe it's creating art that doesn't look like anyone else's. Maybe it's writing in your own voice instead of trying to sound like that author you admire. Whatever it is, do it. Take that step. Honor that inner voice. And when you do, pay attention to how you feel. Notice the energy that moves through you when you're being authentic versus when you're trying to fit in. Your body knows the difference. Your spirit knows the difference. That feeling of aliveness, of rightness, of coming home to yourself, that's your compass. Follow it. Remember this. You are not here to be a copy. You are here to be an original. The universe doesn't make duplicates. Every snowflake is unique. Every fingerprint is unique. Every person is unique. That includes you. You have something to offer that no one else can offer in quite the same way. The question is, will you have the courage to offer it? Stay original. Stay true. Stay authentic. Let your unique light shine so brightly that others can't help but notice. And when they try to copy you, smile and keep moving forward, keep evolving, keep deepening into your authentic self. Because that's a race they can never win. The only race that matters is the one between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. Your originality is not just a gift to yourself. It's a gift to the world. We need what only you can give. We need your voice, your vision, your unique expression of the divine. Don't rob us of that. Don't play small. Don't hide. The world has enough copies. What the world needs is you, the real you, the original you. So go be that, fully, unapologetically, magnificently. And watch what happens when you finally give yourself permission to shine as only you can shine.